we don't have time for things like today. We are all day in the gym training, and there is no time for other activities. And this is a good opportunity for us to ask some questions and to hear some stories that Mestre Steen has to share with us. I promise you good stories. Maybe tears for someone, for me definitely. And Mestre, thanks for coming.
Thank you for the invite.
And glad that you're here, as I can say for them as well. How do you feel?
I feel very good. I feel at home.
Yeah? I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. And about storytelling, we were discussing these days about some book that you read, and that you said it's quite a nice book, and it is about storytelling.
Yeah.
Can you share your thoughts with us about it? It's connected to life, let's say.
What we're doing now is actually one of the oldest rituals in the world, because ever since the beginning of time, people have been gathering and sharing stories. It's not something that I've been thinking much about before, actually. But then, funny enough, or how do you say, surprisingly enough, on the way here, I knew that I would have some more time than I usually have. So I went to the bookshop, one of the kiosks in the airport, and I bought a book. And I was like looking around, and then I saw this book. It's about it's a conversation between an author and a comedian, Danish comedian. He's 80 years old. He's been traveling, touring for 50 years in Denmark, and he's about his act is small stories between. So the book is about the importance of storytelling, and it's interesting because. Nowadays, where we have all these the phones and tablets and computer internet, it's kind of there's a danger of losing the storytelling, because we are so much into this. And one of the important and essential part of this about his storytelling is that how it connects us as people. So sometimes I have to pause because I have emotions coming up, so you have to bear with me. I will try to not to overdo it. Or maybe I will, and we see if we can enjoy it together. Anyway, so this connecting us as human beings, how do we do that? Through stories is the way I tell the story. How I share parts of me, my personality, and my ability to tell it so it resonates within you. That's a good storyteller is all about that. So and the importance of that, because it gives us, it connects us, and not only us, but then you might go home and then you tell somebody, and some of those who are not here tonight, of the other capoeiristas, that you share with them, and through that story, they connect also with me and what I told about, and the ones I would told about in the story. So it's glue for a society, for a community. And not only the near community, but also it extends. And why is it interesting? It's because in Capoeira, we work in communities. Capoeira for me is community, as I see it. And within my school and within the network I have is what we work with and how we see as one of the pillars of our of capoeira for us. So that's why this opportunity here, me having bringing a book and then reading about it and then this situation occurring, and so you say it's a coincidence. Well, what is actually? So it fits perfectly together. So I'm very excited that I'm not once again giving a physical class, but I can actually share some of all of that craziness and wonderful things that I hope really is able to pass on and share with you guys also. So yes, let's just, you have a question or I just go ahead?
I have a question, but I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Just continue and
then we see.
I do have some.
Then you can, yeah, then you can just, if you have a question,
Okay.
yeah, then you, yeah, that's you just raise your hand or, yeah.
You mentioned that capoeira for you is community. And once it happened that on some workshop, I asked one of our guests, a master, what is capoeira to him. The goal was to inspire my students because I expected that he's going to say that capoeira is like everything to him and what so. But then I was surprised when he said capoeira is not everything to me. And I was like, oh, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
So, but later on, I understood. Later on, I explained what is capoeira for him. It was a very, very nice speech, actually. But I would like to ask the same question for you. What is capoeira for you?
Yeah. It's a good question. Because there is so many layers in it. And on one level, it's well, if you ask my wife, she will say it's 24/7. So, and it is who I am, what I do, and what I live for, because it is 24/7. It's going on all the time. But in order not to be and then it's not. Because if it was only capoeira, I would be more weird than I am already. And it's not enough for me. For instance, for me, I connect very much and I recharge. Super important for me is nature. So this is a realization I had some years ago, and so that's I cannot only do this people sharing. I need peace. I need time for myself, and I need to recharge, and I do that in the nature. So that's super important for me. I have a huge dog, a Serbian one, of course. It's Marcos, one of his breeds, American Bully. So that is nature for me, and I connect through him, walking him, being with him, training him. That's nature for me. And then it's reading, music, all kind of music. That's super important for me. And it inspires me, and I use it in capoeira as well. But first of all, before all of that, it's my family. My wife and my kids. You might say maybe my kids before my wife, but who knows? They are so connected. But I think that's one of my biggest achievements, joys in life, is my kids. Which are not kids any longer. One is 26 and a mountain, and another one is 31. So, but the joy of that is what fulfills me a lot. Yeah.
And you're the first capoeira master non-Brazilian in our group. How do you feel about that?
Well, actually, I'm the first European capoeira master of all groups in the story in the world story. It's always a little strange when you have to say it yourself, but I think it's important to also outline it because you not only as a European, but for instance, I come from a very small country with 6 million inhabitants. How many are you guys here in Serbia?
Maybe 8.
7, 8.
7, 8. So more or less, you are a little bit more, but it's more also not such a big country. So you also this identification with the possibilities. Of course, we have sports athletes who are well known. How do you say that? His name? I'm not into tennis, but
Just Novak, say Novak.
Novak. Yeah, he's world famous. You also have basketball players. You know, what's his name?
Nikola Jokic.
Jokic. So it's not that we don't have people to look up to and see that it's possible, even though you are a small country, you can actually succeed and do extraordinary things. But still, within the field that we love, I grew up in a city like a little bit similar, smaller than this city, than Novi Sad, but still they had this walking street and the forest close to, and so I grew up there, and I was bored a lot of the time because it was before internet, it was before mobile phones, it was before all of that. And it was like so many hours, you know, just quietness and looking out and nothing happening. And I was like, you know, of course I had friends, we met up, but still a lot of time. And then you think, okay, now I understand the importance of being bored. Now they are making studies of that because it activates your imagination and your creativity because you have to figure out something to do. So if you're overstimulated all the time, this has a tendency to you get handicapped. So I had the pleasure of being bored. So I had all kinds of imagination, and some of it was to be a famous person in theater and music, and I made up all kind of acts and whatnot. And then suddenly one day, my mother and father, they brought me to the carnival, big huge carnival in Copenhagen. At that time, it was early 80s. I was 12 years old, 11, 12, and they brought me there, and I was like, something just resonated in me. And it was not because that there was big, huge Brazilian bands playing awesome music and dancing like professionals. No, it was just normal Danish people, but it was, the whole city was rocking. Samba, rocking. So, and, but anyway, so I decided to be part of that. So the year after, I started doing samba in a local group. Went there, and then when I turned 14, unfortunately, my father died of cancer, and we had to move because we were living in a big house and we couldn't stay there. My mom couldn't afford it, so we moved to the big city, the capital. We moved to Copenhagen, and in a way, it was not in a way, it was awful, of course. But the timing was not that bad moving to the city. It was more circumstances were bad, but the timing of moving there was good because I was just teenager, 14, imagine, going to the capital. Things were going on, and I wanted to search for. I will answer your question. I was just checking. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. How it is to be the first European. So I moved. So I searched for at that point for samba classes, and then I looked it up, and there was. An evening school where they offered it, and they had this paper where you have all the classes going on, and then there was this description of something called Capoeira. Never heard about it. And I was like, okay, Capoeira. It was the same teacher who was teaching the samba dance, a woman. And the description, music, dance, singing, martial arts, and I already did Taekwondo at that point, so it was like, okay, that sounds insane. So I showed up one evening, and there was this very not tiny woman, very beautiful. I was like, okay, not bad, and Brazilian, so it was very authentic. And so I started doing samba dance with her and capoeira, together with 8 hippies. At that moment, it was like it was still at 80s and peace, love, still in some way, and like experiments, and it was so very exotic, and I was doing Taekwondo also, which was like this, so it was kind of a culture class, but I was like open-minded and just enjoying what was going on there. And but having difficulties, I realized later, understanding what is capoeira, because with only 8 people and only her who could play, she actually never used instruments. So we were just doing stereo music. So then we did that, and I was training with her and the samba, and so. Then in a way, I grew up in a samba school with her. We had a samba school there, and I played, I danced, I did capoeira, and one beautiful day, there was this girl, a little bit younger than me. She was in the class. I hadn't seen her before, and I was like, nice. I was like, but I was quite shy actually. In that terms, I was at that point 17. She was around 15. And then she was, the teacher she was Ania, is her name. She was like, okay, at the end of the class, we're going to give each other massage. Massage? Okay. And then I paired up with her, not the teacher, but the girl. It's like, okay, nice. And then I can't remember who was giving the massage first, but I just remember that after, when she finished the massage, she gave me, I was lying on my front, she gave me a kiss on my cheek, and I was like, okay. And then later on, exactly. And well, to make a long story short of the romance, I followed her to the central station. I was on my bike, and is it on the way? And of course it's on the way. And I followed her, and then I got all the way back because it was not on the way. And so
Of course.
yeah. So yeah, but. So we became kind of the young couple in that moment, and the future and the prince and the princess of the samba school, and it was all like a fairy tale. And then she dumped me. but there was an idea behind it, because then I graduated as a sports teacher, and then I thought, well, I need to go out into the world. I don't need to, but I want to. And then I went to. I thought, okay, Korea, Taekwondo, Samba, Brazil, Capoeira. Okay, I went for Capoeira. So that was their idea, to do that. I never saw before going there. For many years, as I said, it was just a very few bunch of people who did that. And so to have a harder was non-existent. We never did harder. It was something that happened. And the kind of the how do you say, there was a very interesting kind of say a life-changing experience that led up to it. That you know that you have these things that you remember some points in your life, like I don't know how to call it, that you okay, this had you just remember it. Core memory, yeah, moments. And one of those, she called me, Anina, one day, and she said, "Are you coming to the class?" I was like, she never did that before, and I was very like nice and needy, like a nice kid, always doing what you're supposed to do, almost. And so I was always at the classes. Well, it was so strange. And by some reason, I didn't ask her why. So yes, okay, mom. Okay, so I went to the class, and there along the wall there was two guys sitting, like this, very like serious men, like. And I was like, okay. And she said, these two is two of my friends, and they've been they're here from Brazil, and they're just here for one day and visiting. And so I invited them here for the class. And then they were sitting there, and we were doing the samba class, and and this and this and back and forth, and they were just like sitting there. So okay, fine. And then at the end of the class, he asked them, could you show us some capoeira? And then they not, and then it just, that was the life-changing moment, because they didn't say anything to each other. It was two men in the best age, like 40.
Thank you for this.
Yes.
And they didn't. But the thing was, no smiles, no, that's very serious, and then no words. It just started moving slowly, and I remember it's kind of an animal feel to it, and on the ground, moving around, and then it just. They speeded it up slowly, and it grew, and I was like, what? I was like, and it was so amazing. I've never experienced anything. And then I just knew, this is what I want. And the person was Mestre Steen and Mestre Tony Vargas. On the first trip that they had to Europe, and it was in 87. So I was 17 years old at that point. So that was like, yeah, as I say, life-changing. And that's when I started, and then I knew that I wanted to do capoeira. But the thought of becoming a master, like they were at that point already in 87, was like, okay, if I can manage to do a proper shinga and okay. So a couple of years later, I went to actually 2 years later in '89, I went to the first European capoeira meeting. It didn't exist before that. Now there are events all over the world. But before that, that was the first international or just big event of capoeira outside of Brazil. It was in Paris, and I went there, and Mestre Steen was there, Mestre Tony was there, Mestre Sorriso was there, a lot of the masters that are now founders, that were founder of the group Senzala, and now well known all over the world. And I was like, just, it was amazing. It was like, Paris, never been to Paris before, 19 years old, and just doing in capoeira, and I was very fit. I was at that point already a black belt of Taekwondo, so I was like, you could say a little bit, I felt good about myself, you know. I was fit, I was strong, I was fast, I was strong, and the world was open, and we came there, and it was like everything was open. I went there with now a good friend of mine, a Danish guy, and he's also a master now, Mr. Jakob, some of you know him. And he's not in Senzala, he's in Kupushinga. But we went there, and one of the things, but we always, when we talk about it, storytelling, is that you recognize this when you start doing capoeira, or if you had a break from capoeira and then you have a class. How do your thighs and your butt feel?
Horrible.
Horrible. You're like, what is going on here? And we remember we were going with the metro, and as I recall it, there were no escalators. So just going down the stairs was like, okay, it's like stiff legs like this. And then we went into the metro station, and there were like these benches. So we just did this, and then we just scooped down to sit down on the chairs there in the metro. So that was like the physical memory of the challenges of capoeira, which was like, of course, very hard, but also this, you could say, I was sour, I was in pain, but you feel like strong, and you're like, so one of the experiences about it, very nice. And then later that year, I went to Brazil. And it was like, they didn't speak English. I didn't speak Portuguese. I took some courses before, but I mean, so the first couple of months, I didn't say anything. I was like, I went there with a friend of mine, and a Danish guy. We managed to rent an apartment, which is a story by itself, but not to go into that. And I was like, so I went there, but I was always good at memorizing movements without explanation. I'm a visual person, so I went back in the gym, in the academy, and then I watched what he was doing. Said, meio de frente, esquiva de frente, rolei lá e sobe lá e pisa pra cá. And I was not listening, I was just watching, and then I did it. And then I remember one day there was he was having his the academy was together with Mestre Itamar, one of the other founders of Group Senzala. And he's a sailor. He has a boat, he still has it today. So he bought an engine and he needed help with translation. So then he grabbed then I realized that one of his students could actually speak English. So then he asked me to help to translate, and then we were sitting there and talking, and then she was like, but, oh, you're actually nice, you're not arrogant. I said, no, but you never say anything in English. You talk so, no, but I can't speak Portuguese. I'm like, but they thought since I was doing anything and understanding everything what was going on because I could speak. So that's one of the things in dealing with other cultures, and so I learned that was such a small thing, but it just opened my mind. It blew my mind. I remember that, and it also, of course, I remember, for instance, Mr. Hui, who's been here several times. He was this one of the young stars, and strong, he could fly, and he had the black, beautiful man, so once he said to me, sitting and chatting, and he said, well, what about that gringo? Can you dance samba? Of course, knowing that I couldn't, but I could. And so then I did a little bit of dancing, and the nice thing about the situation was that he applauded, and he was like, okay man, you can dance. So that was our first meeting before he 10 years later came to Denmark. That was our first meeting, which was like, so this the ability to not to be arrogant and not to in our first communication, I will never forget that, because it's not always you meet that. He was making fun of me, but then when he realized that actually I turned it around, he just accepted it and we laughed together. So that was such a nice first experience for the two of us. One of my primary goals of capoeira was, if I halfway asking what to become a master, and if I never, one of the first things that biggest goals were, if I would be able to do a macaco and get a blue belt, I would be so happy. That was my goal. Yeah. And I said to Bichinho, I turned 20 there. I turned to my master and I said to him, when I come back to Denmark, I'm going to open up a group of capoeira and I'm going to teach. And I was very disappointed about his answer, because I thought it was very I'm really showing that my interest and and therefore my importance for him, that we could, everything was in my head. And the response that he had was, so it was like, what? And nowadays I recognize when I have a youngster coming in and they have all these ideas and suggestions and whatnot, I'm recognize that from that time. Because who on earth would know that a 20-year-old, very young kid, almost, you would say, in Brazil, skinny like hell, with big hair. Yes, I had hair. And would ever sit here, for instance, and tell the story of of Capoeira and me coming here and being there. So, of course, that was his, not of course, but that was his answer. And it was a very honest answer.
In which point exactly you became his student?
Yeah. I actually became his student when I came back there, because Aninias said to me...
So it was after that meeting in Paris?
No, it was actually before it was when I came to Brazil. Because when going to Brazil, Aninias said she already knew me quite well. She knew me from 14 to 19, so she knew very well. And she said to me, "You are crazy about Capoeira." She knew that. And then so when you come back, I want you to continue with Capoeira and I will focus with Samba. So when I came to Brazil, I said to Mestre Steen, "I want to become your student." Well, actually, I couldn't, because the first 2 months I was there for 6 months. He weren't there. He was still in Europe. So I went to Brazil to meet him, and then he was in Europe. It was like, well, anyway, when he came back to Brazil, so I was doing most of my classes with Itamar. And then when he came back, I said that I want to become a student of yours. And his response on that was the same. Okay, no, it was not nice, man, and what I expected, you know. So when I came back to Denmark, I already knew. So being as ambitious as I was going to Brazil. I knew what I wanted. I thought, I can taekwondo, I can do samba, dancing and playing. It's just to put the two things together, and then we're flying. And then I learned. Because taekwondo is standing up, dancing is standing up. And as you know, capoeira is all about the floor. And I remember I was living in an apartment, we rented it, there was no furniture. So we had two mattresses on the floor, one of each. We split the room, and then we had a living room. We found some tables, a table and two chairs. That was it. And a fridge. So my body was, because I thought when I come back, I want to teach. I want to be able to do a macaco, and I want to be able to do what's necessary, which means play a berimbau and sing at the same time, and instruct movements. So I was training like crazy. Every day I took classes with Mestre Steen. So that thing on the ground, the mattress on the ground was, we were back in Paris. Because I remember I had to spread my legs. I needed to go down there to sleep. So then I could go like, my legs was like, and I couldn't, I were inflamed here. You know that some of you have had that? Yeah. I was inflamed here. Some of you have had that. So I could go until here, and then I just had to do the dying wheel. I just have to throw myself on the back, and then from the ground and up, I couldn't put the hands on the floor, only in the class. So I was like I am now when I'm injured in my back. It was the same. I'm going back in time. So and it's like not before I was going home. I remember I had these moments of a little bit of losing sight and being a little bit dizzy. I was like, oh, must I have a flu or what's going on? And then looking back years after, I was realizing I had stress. I was sick because I put so much stress on me because I wanted to be the shit before time. So you learn. I came back home and then I started a group in 91. And to answer the question, can you please say exactly what you asked me?
How it feels
To
for
be-
you to be the first master?
To be the first master. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
What were
days.
the challenges?
Yeah, the challenges, yeah. Well, nowadays it took me maybe 10 years after I got my red belt before I was kind of landed in it, and I've started to fill out and feel comfortable in it, grounded in it. But it has, I also think it has to do with circumstances. First of all, still to this day, if I go, if whatever event I go to, I'm always the only foreign masters who's not Brazilian. It's the same, still. It's slowly changing. Once in a while there is maybe one other besides me. And often it's one of my own students who's reached the level as well. So that has of course been a challenge in the way of, even though I am graduated as a master and I'm not Brazilian, and it's not my language. I speak Portuguese quite well, but still I'm a guest in the culture. So on one hand, on the other hand, I feel very much at home in the normal society. If I open up and I share what I do, and I'm an alien, I'm strange. I mean, even my own students, not you guys, I think, but my Danish students and the parents, sometimes they ask me, so not the grown-ups, so more parents to the kids. So what do you do? Now I know. Now I have heard the question several times, but well, this is what I do for a living. But it's so different and strange that people can't comprehend it in their minds. This is actually a possibility of a lifestyle to do this. So I understand them. It's so it is in that sense being non-Brazilian in a culture. Of course, I've met a lot of prejudice, a lot of envy, and a lot of I don't understand. You might even say, never told me, never said to me, but knowing people talking behind my back. You are a privileged Danish guy. You could choose whatever you want, but you chose to teach capoeira. You're stealing our culture and our job here. We came from Brazil. We don't. This is our possibility, and he's doing that. And on top of that, I even have success. I had success not from the beginning, but really soon I had success. A lot of students. For many years, I went to a lot of events around Europe, and I came with 10, 20 students, more than the other teachers and masters came with, and I was still young. So of course it caused not always happiness from their side. What always supported me in my path through Capoeira life was my choice of master and group, because Senzala is recognized all over the world as one of the biggest and oldest and most recognized groups in Capoeira. And not only that, but also Mestre Steen as one of the founders most respected. So I knew that carrying his name, being a student of him, saying, so who are you? I said, I'm a student of Mestre Steen. From Group Senzala. Then I knew, even though they were maniacs, and I met quite some psychopaths with no limits, they put up limits, even though for themselves a little bit. More than if I would have been from another group of nobody, I would have had much more problems, that's for sure. And then I had also Brazilian colleagues that from my own group, even though maybe they weren't a student of Peixinho, but we have this in, and never forget about that. And people do, even my own students, also you guys, and also my Danish guys, when we go somewhere, there is a very, very deep understanding amongst Brazilians that I have to teach and pass on. I always had that understanding, but for many of us, for many people who are not Brazilians, they are not raised that way. But if you are part of the same group, you come as a team, you die as a team, and you leave as a team. That's how we roll. Yes, you are in the hotter by yourself, but if you are like in troubles, like even though it's the biggest ass mother crazy people who's playing with your friend, and your friend, your mate, he's in trouble, you buy the game, you take over. That's the way it goes. So I always had the support, and I remember that once we went to an event after some years I've been coming there, at Paulo Siqueira, Mr. Paulo Siqueira, he had for many years, 15 years, a huge event in Hamburg, summer event. And I came there with a whole week, it was amazing. Capoeira from all over Europe and Brazil, and they came there. One of my first meetings with Mestre Accordion, one of Mestre Bimba's most recognized and known masters. I met him there several times, and others, not to mention more. But I went there, and it was maybe the first year, the second year that Mr. Hui was living in Denmark, and he came along also. And he told, I was there with 20 students, and all the Brazilians, they had percentages of their students. I never had any percentages. And I was like, I never hang into those kind of things, because if I would have done that, I would have been a bitter man today. So what I did was I just, okay, you choose to do that, I will still come here because I have a lot to learn here and my students as well. So I just kept on coming. But that year, Mr. Hui said to Mr. Paulo Siqueira, he said to him, you need to pay him, you need to pay Steen as you pay the rest of us. Otherwise it's not fair. And then from then on, I earned also percentages of my students. So we have our disagreements, me and Hui, but there are things I will never forget. That's for sure. Again, one more thing, me and Hui. That's nice to remember. One of the big challenges of becoming a master, me becoming a red belt, because in Senzala we don't become masters. We get the red belt, and by time we are recognized as masters of capoeira by the community. This is how it works. Not only Senzala, but in theory, anyway, that's how it works. So we had a very, very tight connection, me and Mestre Steen, because through 20 years he came to Denmark several times a year, and the last 10 years of it, we had a very tight collaboration, building up capoeira here in Serbia. Maybe I came here twice a year. Once he was here as well. And so besides that, I traveled around Europe. When he came, I met up with him where he were. And for all of the last 15 years or something, I made trips to Brazil, where he was, that we made together, organized together. And you were at one of those trips, yeah? Montanha was one of those trips. So when you do work that tight together, that meant that when he stayed in Denmark, he was staying at my place with my family. He slept in my kids' bed. They had big beds, small beds. But I kind of like, normal hospitality. You can have one of the best places in the house, and then our kids, they slept with us, organized differently. And here we were sometimes for 2 weeks, because there was so crazy many people here. Belgrade and Novi Sad together, all in all, we would have been 400 people. And we couldn't organize it, so we had one weekend in Belgrade, then we came before, and then we stayed for a week, and then we had here in Novi Sad, for instance. So we spent a lot of time together. And then you think of all the things that he explained me and we talked about, and you're mistaken, because Mestre Steen was not a man of many words. So one of the things that you cherish in a friendship, for instance, is the ability to be together without talking. But before you reach that point, you've been talking a lot. Am I right?
Yeah.
So with him, it was opposite. We didn't talk at all. The first couple of years, no, we did communicate. And then later on, he opened up, and we started talking more. We got to know each other a lot. And I was always interested in having, for me, it was such an amazing opportunity and pleasure having a relationship, and with that relationship being able to learn from one of the best. So I called him, I asked into his life, to the other students of his, to know what was going on in our group. And so I knew. And he asked into my life, and so we had a very special bond because of that, and because we just resonated as personalities. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. You can do whatever you want, but you just don't really, it doesn't have the swing, the vibe. So one day he called me. I will never forget it. He called me I was doing groceries. And at that time, the mobile phone was invented. So it must have been around 99 or no, it was late, much later. It was around He died in 10/9/2009. He called me. I was doing groceries, and he said, "So, what's up, Master?" I said, "Yeah, man, I'm just went to the doctors and boy, I got this guy." So he had a certain way of talking. He said, "So I was diagnosed with prostate cancer." I was like, fuck. I still remember it because my grandmother, she died of cancer, and my father died of cancer, and I was like, fuck. And at the same time, trying to be imagining that, oh, no, that's not good, but it will be fine, man. So what are you doing? And keeping up the good spirit, and but inside I just died. So for 2 years he was like, it was going on. He was struggling. He was doing all kind of, what you do when you don't want. His kid was like 3 years old or 4. I can't even remember. It was like just terrible. And I had this, and he was like just fighting on, and we were like imagining he was be all right, and we were still in that hype. And then I saw him in January 2011. I went to Brazil, one of the trips, and I just came and picked us up in the airport. He was like skinny, no hair from chemotherapy, and I was like, fuck, man. And I remember him and me, we were staying at this very nice hotel at Apuado. It's on the beach of Ipanema. And the last moment I had him, just me and us, having a cup of coffee, and we didn't talk about that he was going to die. And well, I was still in the hope, but we knew. And we just sat there. That was such an important moment, because that silent, just recognition is so beautiful. Because we had that moment. And I remember when my kids were there and my family saying goodbye. They were on the trip, and when in the hotel foyer, I just remember my daughter saying goodbye. She just fell apart. She just cried. Then I was like, still, one part and then the other part you try to ignore it, and she just fell apart, and I was like, well, it's not so bad. And well, we left for Denmark, and then he couldn't come for the event, which were in May. And the guys took off. Mestre Steen and Mr. Amos, they were at that event. And then we did the event, and they left. And then a week after, he died. And we were like just devastated. And people going crazy, and them trying to Mr. Amos trying to get back to the funeral from Brazil, and it was like just so terrible. I mean, we lost our master, our father, our friend, our mentor, our leading staff, Capoeira, whatever. And it was just so terrible. And actually, I realized later on that for 2 years I've been in a collapse, in a depression, because I already knew what was going to happen. So I was like this. But anyway, so what happened after is like how it is to become a master of capoeira is like so colored by this, because this is the peak in some way to get the red belts, as in our group is the peak of our capoeira journey. And what happened was that a week after his funeral, Mr. Gato, one of the founders of Group Senzala, one of Mestre Steen's best friends, and also I also have a very good relationship with him and his family. He called me and he said, to me, listen, when Mestre Steen, at his last days, he got so sick that he went to the hospital. His leg was swollen, he was like so bad. And then the doctor said, listen man, I cannot do anything more for you. I can give you intervene, it's called that in English, yeah? Nourishment, and then some painkillers, and then you can live for a couple of days more. But it's not, it's not going to be especially pleasant, that's for sure. Or I can give you morphine. It will take away your pain and you will not wake up again. And then Mr. Gato told me, the answer from Mr. Steen was, give me, can I have a couple of hours? I want to say goodbye to my family. So he did that. And then Mr. Gato told him, then he asked his wife, and he said, there's going to be formatura. It was going to happen 1.5 months after. And there is people on the list. He already had a handful that were going to get red belts. But I have 3 more. And then he said, you were one of them. The other one was Mestre Pumau, who also got the belt. And Mestre Pelé, who's now master, but Pelé on the Mestre Pelé. So I was like, so for me, it's like the biggest, how do you say, gesture of love and care that you could ever have. I mean, that was one of his last wishes in his life, and he thought about me. I mean, that was like, I was like, so of course, in a way, so getting the red belt was like a thing that it never happened before in the story of capoeira in the world that a foreigner had a red belt. And the circumstances, now, you have to realize that my master died. So for me, it was like, it was over. I mean, and then suddenly, you could say he spoke from his grave in a certain manner. And he kind of, so yeah, I had that. And at the same time, I was just in grief. I was in mourning. I was like, it was my second father that died of cancer. I mean, sorry my language, what the fuck? I mean, so my students, they collected money so I could go to Brazil. I could go. I couldn't bring my kids, I couldn't bring my wife, I couldn't bring anything. One student went there because he apparently had the possibility. And then I went there and I stayed at his widow's, his Mestre Steen's house. His widow was there, his kid, a young kid, 4 years old, not understanding what's going on. And his widow, devastated. You know, she was, I mean, I was unhappy. Imagine her. And I remember in their living room, no, in their bedroom where the computer was, there was this where you hang your clothes. And his pants with his belt were hanging there. So I was like, what? That was really, really hardcore. So the whole ceremony, everybody did, like Mestre Steen, Mestre Hammers, they were amazing. They were in grief themselves, but they prepared and I got my belt. It was Mestre Hammers who colored it. I got the dobrão, which is a medal that we get in. That's a tradition. He was running up and down Rio de Janeiro to organize that, the diploma and whatnot, and we had it. But I must say, becoming a red belt is really a different experience than I have ever dreamt about. Of that's for sure. But also so strong and so beautiful in a way. You cannot make this up. I mean, that's something you see in a movie or something. It's almost a cliche, but it's not because I lived it. And it took me, as I said before, it took me 10 years to land on my feet and embrace that that's a fact and that's who I am and that's my story. And for my students, I sensed it was not, because when you get the red belt, nothing changes. I mean, you're the same, and what I do is the same. But and then by time it changes, because now you have another responsibility, and there's a lot of things that clicks, that has been clicking in me and grounding me. But what I realized was that for my students, it was important. And one of the places where I felt it most was here, in Serbia. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate coming here is it's been one of the biggest challenges in my life to build up a group here in another culture with people from another culture and you guys. And we have been fighting, not fighting, but discussing. We've been disagreeing. Many times I've been like, I'm going to kill those motherfuckers. You guys, not you guys, some of the other guys. You know, just like, just finding its way. But the love of Capoeira and the glue and us wanting the same thing has kept us together. And one of the things that actually people didn't do in Denmark is that you prepared and it's still an academy in Copenhagen. It has a special place. There's a present for me. You cared. And not only you cared, showed it. There's in the old times of Capoeira time, when it was like very like Wild West, one of the weapons that Capoeiristas was a shaver. You know, those ones a folding knife almost, because you could hide it and easily hide it. And then they put an elastic into it, so you could open it and you could throw it, and then it just like clap, and then it cut. So you could use it as various ways of weapon. And so these wonderful men here, you bought one of this and then you engraved it. And I had it as a present. So so that was a wonderful gesture, and it's there in our Capoeira main center, our Capoeira house in Copenhagen. So so becoming a master is will of course be one of the biggest achievements of my life professionally. And in many ways also personally, because this is what I do full time, so I don't have time to become a famous disc jockey or an accountant now. It's too late, and I don't want to either. So yeah, but I'm very proud of it, and I'm not in a rush. So. I've also reached a point where I am enjoying being here. I'm enjoying passing on the beauty of Capoeira and all its possibilities, embracing it. And I'm not worried about the recognition of others. And therefore, I have it. Because that's what happens. Is then when we sink in and really fill out who you are and what you do, it comes to you. And yeah, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Do you have any regrets as a capoeirista? Something that you would like to point out? That you like to, that it has been different? It could be different.
No. Just what old people always say, so I'm apparently getting old, is that maybe I could have enjoyed it more. In general, just enjoyed and not being so worried about, am I doing the right thing? What are they thinking? What should I do? What is this? But just like, because I spend so much time on like worrying if you're doing the right thing, and especially about what other people are thinking. You can't change it anyway. You think maybe, I thought I could change it. You can't. You need to be true to yourself. So, but hey, I'm learning now. So, but besides that, I don't know. If I do it again, I don't know. I think next time, if there is a next time, I want to do something else, just for the fun of it. Maybe become a dancer, or maybe a cowboy. I love the idea of having a horse, but I don't have the time for it. So, yeah.
Guys, if there is something that you would like to ask, feel free to do it.
Do you still have contact with Anine?
Yes, fortunately she's still living in Copenhagen, and we still are in contact and talking about that, talking about her. We have a very nice relationship. She was also my wife's teacher. So, and since she was actually the one who introduced Capoeira to Denmark, not only Denmark, but one of the few that introduced it in Europe, she's very interesting because she also, as I said before, built up a samba school. So, I'm going to ask her to tell, to share her story as well. And I'm going to do it in here in the spring because I think it's very important. And for me, having this possibility to share this is a huge pleasure. And it's also a gift for me, from you guys to me, that you actually have the patience and the interest in listening to my story. So, in a way, this is a present for me. And I think it's very much about time that I give her that present as well. So I'm asking you to do that. And I'm going to do it as a pre-event occasion to the event that we're going to have in May in Copenhagen, which is for me very much talking about me for real landing in what am I doing in Capoeira, and what is, since now it's kind of a reach. You can say the bottom, or you can see the top. So what's the next? What is actually next for Capoeira in Europe? I mean, we have 4 contramasters here. I have 3 in Copenhagen, just now speaking. I made 2 red belts. So I'm like miles ahead of me becoming a blue belt and being able to do a macaco. After 5 years of struggling how to learn a macaco, and it was like I trained, and finally I learned it, and then I did for some years, and it's just such an amazing movement. I can really recommend it. Just to it feels so, and then suddenly it's so easy, and it's so much capoeira. I just love, and I can't do it any longer. So I'm so much past that, and that's just a detail. But anyway, so I was sitting and I was thinking, so what is the next step? We proved it. We're here. We are Europeans doing capoeira, representing the Afro-Brazilian culture. And so it's not about gaining territory and who's the best, and forget about it. I don't want to spend time on that more. We have had lots of that already. And there is so much bullshit going on in the world, and just taking it as an example now, today here in Serbia. So I thought, okay, I think that for me, what is capoeira? For me, capoeira is the possibilities, the gift that capoeira, what she gives us, and the Afro-Brazilian culture in as it is in a whole, is that it gives us a possibility to have these moments where we mirror each other and we see each other and we feel each other, because the culture and the music and the singing connects us to our hearts and our emotions. And when we do that and we mirror each other, we meet for real. And in that meeting, we can reinforce our identity, our feeling of me as a person, my power, my sensuality, my possibilities. For us as a middle class people, maybe, in general, that's what the audience that we touch the most in Capoeira School in Senzala is that. And the awakening is the possibility to sing and dance and be together out of that screen. In other cultures, as Brazil, it's like, it's okay, I'm black, but this is my culture as well. Maybe I'm gay, but it's capoeira that connects us. It doesn't matter. I'm old, I'm young. My mom, 87 years old, she just started doing capoeira. She's going to get baptized at the next Badisado. Imagine that. That's amazing.
Nice.
And so that's the power, and that's what I want to focus on in capoeira. That we are all equal and have all equal worth and possibilities coming together. And then there's another fact is that what started out as a male thing, it's not any longer. And thank God for that, because it's not very successful out there, just men in charge. Can we agree upon that?
Yep.
Yes.
So we had a lot of examples. One with a toupee. Why don't, because of his ignorance, he's just not admitting, Trump, cut off the hair. Are you bald under that shit you're hanging over there? We have others. We have Putin. We have Netanyahu. We have a lot of, and they're all led by men. And in Capoeira, half of our students are women. It's girls. It's you. Beautiful. You were this size. Now you're taller than me soon. How beautiful is that? I mean, and so one of the first masters, the first female master in Senzala, and from Grupo Capoeira Brazil also, they came together, 7 women some years ago, and they made the movement Movimento Tandara, sharing and taking a stand for women in Capoeira. So last summer I contacted them and I said, what do you think about this idea? And I explained what I just told them now. And from a female perspective, seeing you as peers and as inspiration for all of us, would you please come, and then we can make the first edition of Movimento Tandara outside of Brazil. And it was such an emotional meeting. It was Zoom, and I cried, and they cried, and they were like, and never, 2 of them I talked to, but the other 4 which were at the meeting, one was not there, but the other 4, they were like, I never saw them in my life before, and we just connected immediately. And they were like, they just fell in love with the idea, and I told me, I don't have any money. But if you want to do it, let's go for it. So I will find the money, and so they're coming, 7 of them. I bought the tickets. I hope you all come, because otherwise I have to eat apples for the rest of the year. No, but I'm already into it. You know, an event like this, you have to go for it. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. You have to risk. Otherwise, there's no gain. So I did that, and the program is here. I brought this for you guys. and an analphabet in all of this internet and whatnot. So I cannot bribe that it was my idea, but I'm carrying it. There's an RQ code on it. I'm just saying. There's an RQ code on it. And then you put your phone, and then it leads you directly into the program where all these wonderful women, they are presented. And we are also, of course, we have our peers. Mr. Tony and Mr. Hammers is also coming, because it's a capoeira event for all of us, but with the inspiration this time from women, from the female side of way and seeing and have experience in capoeira, and they are going to be in charge of the classes. We are letting Mr. Hammers and Mr. Tony give a couple of classes also, but they are there, like me, to support and to just enjoy what all these wonderful female masters has to share with us. So, as this moment we have having now is never going to repeat itself, for sure, that event is not going to repeat itself. So I hope that as many as you will be able to attend it. Otherwise, you will hopefully enjoy the pictures and the movies and the stories that are told after. Okay. So Anine is going to be one of the pre-events up to it, and I'm also going to launch. The idea is, I'm not, but someone is going to launch the stories of these wonderful female masters up to the event on Instagram or Facebook, so we can read and prepare ourselves for their stories and questions that we may have for them.
I have another question, if I may.
For sure.
But first of all, please don't pair your mother with Mestre Camarão on the Batizado. Anybody else can do. So my question is.
She will kick his ass.
Yeah. Okay. My question is, if you can, in maybe 2 or 3 points, tell us what made Mestre Steen special in terms of other masters.
Yeah. That's a wonderful thing to ask, because we may have these ideas of that Brazilians are loud and black and big and muscular and noisy, and of course a lot of them are, because there's a huge amount of black people in, so that's not a wrong exception to have. And it's one of the noisiest culture I've ever been into. I was just there for 2 months ago, and I love to eat breakfast there in the morning on the street, because then I was sitting on this suku bar, it's a juice bar on the corner, and there was like two people. They were, I don't know if one of them was a sale they were selling on the street. They were hanging out there anyway. And they were just like, they were talking, but it was not talking. The conversation was, "Hey, mané, como é que é?" And they were like screaming at each other. They were like, and if it would be here, it would never happen. In Denmark, not in a million years. I mean, so it's so, but they were like just alive, and they were like exchanging information and having conversations, and we're like, yeah, man, because in Denmark, everything is so quiet and so square-minded and so polite and so boring. I mean, and nobody says hello to each other and nobody sees each other. Answering the question, Piscine was the opposite. He was quiet, but that doesn't mean that he didn't have a meaning. But he was a little bit shy. He was he was
introvert.
yeah, a little bit introvert. Yeah, he loved nature. He was a surfer. He played beach. He liked to and he made instruments. He loved his own company, and but that also meant that when he spoke, not only because he never spoke else, but also because he was one of the best in his field. People, they listened. And I remember that you met Mestre Cardoso in Denmark?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Mestre Cardoso was one of his students. And he's maybe a little bit taller than me. And he's just a force of nature. He's a black guy, but he's a force of nature. He has a rasta hair and he's just huge. I mean, he doesn't do weights or anything. He's just like a tank, and then he eats a lot. I mean, now he has a big belly. Didn't always have that, but he's like huge. And he was this kind of from the streets, from the favelas, and a survivor. And one of his, at the latest years, Piscino's front warriors. You need some of them. You cannot only be, you can, but sometimes it's nice to have those kind of warriors also who can, so you don't need to fight. They can just stand there and look the way they look when they don't smile. And that's enough. But he, as you guys also, he was like, dangerous. And sometimes, often, he fucked up. And then Piscine would be like, he was looking up, I remember, and he was just, Cardoso was just like, yes, master, yes, master, yes, master. So that was some of his, and then when he did that, we just loved it. I just loved it. Because it's like, why did I love it? Because it shows not only the nature of Mr. Piscine, but also the other side of Mr. Cardoso. How he was, he is, and he was. That the more challenging side of his, let's say, put it that way, but also at the same time, the respect that he had. And if you have this side, certain kind of respect, it shows that you also has a good side. There's a good side of him. I didn't know him that well, so it was like, okay, but okay, it's fine. And later on, I got to know him, and it's a very nice person. Still dangerous, though. But, yeah. You have another question?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and of course, all of this, Mr. Piscine making instruments, and that's why, and I still have, to this day, the instruments, or several of his atabaks that he made, kashishis, and the trio that I play every day is from him. So it's like, yeah, amazing, actually. And just to hook you even more and tell the importance of you coming to the Danish event, is that I also have the pleasure of announcing that I'm going to give 3 brown belts at the event. Wow. It's going to be my son, Isaac. He's going to be a brown belt. He's considering what we normally do, he's younger. But he has there's the fact that being the son or the daughter of a master, it gives you possibilities and advantages in the sense that you live in it. You don't have the doubts of your place. If you have a place, if you are welcome in the capoeira world, you don't have that doubt, because your own father and mother, or just one, is a master. And that makes a huge difference. It made for me. Because before I became a master, I was like, well, do I really deserve to be here? So they have that advantage. Then they had disadvantages as everybody's eyes are on them, they're expected to behave in some ways, and if they are not, they put it on themselves. But Isaac has, on top of that, he has his own group of capoeira in a city outside, an hour away from Copenhagen, that he's been building up. He has around, and another group in Copenhagen also, so he has around 50 students training under his revision. And then I have Professor Julius, who has been here several times as well. He's around 29. He's been doing capoeira with me since he was 5 years old. And then I have some of you old know him, but he's had a break. Now he's been back for a couple of years, 1.5. And right before he had the break, I was about to give him brown belt. So now is the time. It's Professor Soneka. So he's also going to get the brown belt.
Nice.
So it's, for me, it's of course, it's always emotional moment when you give brown belts, and this year 3 of them, and one of them is my own son. And at the same event where my mom, at the age of 87, is going to get baptized.
Nice.
So I didn't think that when I opened up, I didn't know when I, this summer, opened up a group for senior citizens, that my mom was, I didn't have that in mind that she was going to participate in the event. I didn't know that I was going to give brown belt to Isaac. But that's the beauty of life, that things just have a tendency to actually fit together. So, yeah. Yes?
You mentioned that your wife is also a capoeirista, right? Your wife?
No, she's not.
No. I haven't heard.
No, yeah, but you're not that wrong actually, because she was doing capoeira. The thing is that we started as a couple in samba. Remember that she ditched me, that I told you in the beginning, and she fired me. But the luck was that then I went to Brazil. She had the opportunity let me put it this way. I was 17, she was 15. We had the possibility to go out and then experience the world. So that was a good moment of 3 years. I was 21 and she was 19 when we came back again together. And that was actually perfect. And we were in love, and everything was nice, and she was supportive. She's been my biggest support in her and my mom in this craziness of capoeira. And so of course she did capoeira as well with me. But it was not a good idea, because I was not supposed to tell her what she was doing not wrong, but could do differently in the class. So, like, she got pregnant with Sophia, and with Isaac, and she were it must have been. I can't remember. I think it was Isaac. No, it was Sophia. And she, pregnant with Sophia, she got baptized by Mestre Steen. So actually, later on, Sophia continued. She did capoeira, and she was baptized again. So Sophia's baptized. Our daughter's baptized twice. So, but at it doesn't work out. It was either she tries to kill me in the capoeira class, or she stops, and or we get divorced, or so we decided one thing apart from it.
You stay together.
We stay together, and she's educated as a fashion designer. So everything that you see about the aesthetics of our logo, our whatever I do, t-shirts, your t-shirts as well. You make them, you send it, you say, what do you think? I have a look, and then I ask, I would never say my love, because then she would also kill me. I said, so, Joy, what do you think about this? And they say, yeah, you should do this and this. And I said, so, we think that, we each have to stick to what we are best at. Yeah. You have other questions?
I have.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of masters, and most of them, they're trying to catch, to occupy as many territories, countries, cities as possible. Because of money, because of ego, because of development group. But you have only 2 countries. You don't like money, you have no ego. What's the problem?
Well, I have had, I think, first of all, it's important that we have an ego, because the ego is what brings us forward. The thing is that when people, if the ego takes over, and that's all, that's the problem. My ego has given me problems, that's for sure. So I won't say I don't have it any longer, but it's better. Money, yes, I don't have anything against getting rich, and for sure, for me, it's important that the money that I earn through capoeira also reflects what I represent and what I do and what I put into it. But if the money and the ego is what drives people, it's not healthy. So it's never been my drive. It's never been the money. Just to say that. My mission or my vision has always been to do capoeira. So why did I start doing capoeira, build up our school in Denmark? Was because, well, otherwise I wouldn't have anybody to do capoeira with. And I didn't want to do it with any kind of a person. So I had a master, so, well, then I do it. And I was never looking for more territory, in the sense that the bigger things get, the more problems you will have. And the less time you will have to do capoeira. And that's, I realized that fairly early, actually. Another thing is that I have never had this urge or this longing to travel the world. Actually, I'm very much in love with where I am in Denmark and my country. I like that. It's not that I wish I could live in Brazil, or I wish I could. And if you don't have that drive of like adventures, you certainly shouldn't like try to conquer territory. I think that's another part. So the reason that we're here is a coincidence. Suddenly one day in the peak in 2000, I had a ton of students that were like, I was like had the champ of the capoeira, and we all had tons of. Alone in my beginners class, I had 70 people in the beginners class, and I had 3 levels going on. It was like, it's more adults than I have just all in all now in training with me in Copenhagen. So it was like crazy times. And then this small, a little bit different looking guy, like this size, white, like he had a little bit funny appearance actually. He came and he said, one of my students came, a beginner, he said, I'm here with the Serb, and he's like, I met him at an Angola event in Aarhus, which is a city 3 hours away. He said, his name is Alex, and Alex says, hello, I'm here, I'm coming from Belgrade, and the day before, I was watching television and I saw, blew my mind, NATO forces bombing a bridge on live television. Your bridge. That's what I saw. It was crazy. And now I'm sitting here. Another story. So, and he said, we're a handful of people in Belgrade. We want to become students of yours. I was like, what?
You should have just said,
Like, what? I was like, that's like, okay. So with my ego, okay, nice. But I was like, oh, that place, and now I don't want to travel. I have small kids, and so I talked with my wife, and I talked with Mestre Steen, and I said, yeah, well, of course, you go for it. And and then I went in August.
But you skipped the interesting part. Sorry for interrupting.
Ah, okay. And then I told him, listen, I'm you know, there's one more higher graduated here. He's like amazing. It's Mr. Hui, and I think you should, because he was like higher graded than me. So I said, go there, see if that's not better for you. And then a couple of days after, he came back and he said, no, it's not for me. I want to be a student of yours. I say, okay. And then in August 2001, I gave a workshop in Belgrade, and these guys' teacher, Dusan, was there. Contramestre Canainho, Contramestre Palhaço was there. I think that's the only one that's left from that time. Yeah. And it was August, 40 degrees, and crazy experience. I'll tell that story another time. But anyway, so that's why I came here. That's an amazing story to tell. We need to also to do that sometime. So, I mean, if I'm only one person and I don't want to be an administrator, I want to be a capoeira practitioner. I want to do capoeira. I want to have time to train myself, and I want, maybe most of all, I want to keep my marriage and the possibility to watch my kids grow up, and I want to have a tight connection with them. And if you're running up and down the countries and trying to make an empire, you don't have time for that. So that's why, no thank you. Yeah?
Did you ever think of quitting?
Yes. Many times. Once I remember, it was on the peak of my capoeira, Scandinavian capoeira meeting. We were contracted, Senzala, to make a show in Finland, in one of the biggest theaters there. It was like the Opera House of Copenhagen. Like, I'd never been on a stage that big. And we were around 30 in the show, and we flew in from Brazil. Like, there were 25 of them, and we came from Denmark, also me and some of my students, and to do the show. I did danza de Odisha and capoeira and what Pushati hit, all that. And after that, a lot of them, since they already had their trip paid, we brought them to, it was very close to the Danish event, the Scandinavian Capoeira meeting, so they came. We were like, I had like 15 masters. They were staying in a hotel. I had tons of students. I was fit. I was practicing. I was really practicing a lot. I had time to do that also, training myself. I was like peak young. I was much younger. Maybe it was like almost, 18 years ago, something like that. And then at the end of the event, I thought everything was well, everybody was taken care of, and then this last hot air, and I thought, okay, I'm going to play. And I was so confident in my own self and my ego. I just said, come whoever will. And then I sat down in front of the berimbau. There are games from that, it's filmed, and it's amazing games with Mestre Peixinho, Mestre Torneiro, Mestre Peixinho, Mestre Bucina, and so those games had been going on, so like one of high level games. And then I said, okay, I sat down, confident, bring on. And then Mr. Karaku sat down. And Mr. Karaku is a friend of mine, but he has a side of him that you never really know if he's going to hold that martello back, or he is going to kick you a meia de compasso, 100 kilometers per hour in this height from the floor. So I was like, okay. And then I went there and I played well, very well. But the thing was that Mr. Karaku was not really satisfied with various things. So when I marked, I got him several times. I marked a kick there, I marked a hasteda there. He was just like ignoring it. And if you work with a player like that and they ignore it, either you need to do it through, which was not really the moment to do that, or you you stop the game, or you keep on there, and then maybe nothing happens. But it did, because suddenly I was flying in the air, in the peak of my life, in the peak of the event, in front of all of my students, in parents, all the guests. And I was like lying there, and everything went through my head. You just need a split second, and you can. That's how fast the mind works. And I was just like, bam. Fuck. And when you have a big ego, it's not nice, which I had. So I got up, and then I said, okay, but I can make it. So I was playing, whap. Through the mind again, split second. Bam! What the actual F? And I was like, whoa. And you could just feel the energy in there. And then, okay, no, I can. And then I did the mistake once again. Wow. Third time. Bam! I was like, okay, I think this is enough. Thank you, Mr. Karaku. And I remember, I just sat down. Normally you stand up and you say, thank you for a wonderful event. It's been a pleasure. Wonderful that you came. And I was sitting like this. You can see it on I have a photo of a video or something. I was like, thank you. I hope you had thank you for this time. And I was like this.
It was
and like the worst.
2006.
Was it 2006? Okay. Okay, so when you fall off a horse, what do? You get scared, and you are like it's not nice. So you have to do what? Get up as quick as possible. But the problem is, he didn't live in Denmark. And you don't want to climb up, you don't want to climb that horse, you don't want to play with him. That's another thing, because you're scared, as you are for the horse. But the problem was, he was not living in Denmark. So I had to wait until I met him again. You imagine that? All of this going on, and so it was like, it took me 2 years. 2 years. And in those 2 years, when you think you are the shit and you realize you're not only about capoeira-wise, but what I also realized that I thought that me being Steen, the Danish guy, well organized, everyone was perfectly organized. I just missed the whole idea of the culture, and that is, when we come to a capoeira meeting, we are not coming there for a G20 top political meeting. We are there to be together. So it's not about me as a host just putting people in the hostels and giving the best food and the best circumstances. No, me as a host is sitting down with my homies and talk, Karaku, how are you doing? That's it. And he showed me in that moment, first of all, don't think because now you're on top that you are more worth than me. And why are you not here with me? So, now you are. You feel the fall. Yeah, he never said that, of course. I understood that. So I had to understand that and process that during 2 years. And finally, and in those 2 years, I was questioning myself. Is this the right thing for me to do? Can I do it? All of those, all the time. And then, not to mention the event in a city in Denmark where he came, and I was like, I remember in that time I was in education as a therapist, and I talked with my own therapist. I called her and she said, but you don't have to. I mean, you can also just quit. Why don't you quit? You don't have to do capoeira. I was like, I was just cooking. And then I went there, and then the opportunity arose. I played with him. I bought the game and I played with Karaku. And it was nothing special, but it was very special because I had to. It's not just to go in there and then you'll make yourself small and you just survive. Or you have to play your game. You have to. I had to stand my ground. I had to play with him. Otherwise, it didn't count. And I managed to do that. And I remember when I came out, Mestre Jacobi was there. He was there in 2006 as well. And then he just stood. He's from the countryside. So he's a quiet guy. He just said to me. So we made it.
Understood.
That was enough. Because he understood. He knew me, of course, but I will never forget either. So, and after that, I started. Then, when, of course, after Pichino died, and I was really depressed, and okay, I couldn't really, my home in just coming to Brazil, I didn't feel the connection any longer. So I also asked myself, should I quit? So yes, many times.
Somebody from there had a question from the ladies. Was it any question from you ladies?
Yeah. So, Capoeira School in Senzala, this weird word that we have on our logo, on our pants and also on our t-shirts. It's an actual place. I had the pleasure of being there and see this tremendous work of capoeira that you did and that you placed in that house, our house in the north. That's yours, 24 hours a day, so you could decorate it as you wish. You have 15 congas and 1,070 berimbau, something like that, more or less. And there you teach kids from the age of 2, which is super cool. And where you also, it didn't happen there, but you also built or created masters of your own, and you did many other things. So I want to paint a picture for people who are just now seeing you for the second time in their life, and the first time was yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? And for our kids who are now just joining these grown-up talks, I would like you to tell us a little bit about Capoeira School in Senzala and your work there in our house in the north, as we call it.
How works on a daily basis, or in general?
In general, and
yeah.
Maybe, whatever you wish to share.
Yeah. Well, it's a dream come true, of course, and it's I need to remind myself every day that not only the organization, the group, the community I've created with you guys, how amazing that is, but also just the fact that my students, my Danish students especially, when they go out and they go to other groups and other places, they always come back and they say, but it's so different. Because what we've managed to do there, what I've managed to create together with you is a community where all these ages are present. And you might find it normal, but it's not normal. In general, people, they only teach adults or they just teach kids. I don't know anybody who actually who teach capoeira from 2 to 87 years old. I don't know anybody else. So that's very rare, and I love it. I think it's amazing. I mean, and that maybe is the biggest gift I give myself and I share with you guys is this joy and how amazing it is, not only in Copenhagen to have this house and to have this place, the connection, and also that I have here, coming here, and I was just talking about on the way here in the car with if I open up my passport, I mean, there's no more room for stamps for Serbia. This is the country I've been the most, besides my own. I've never been so many times in another country besides Serbia. I mean, so only that fact is like amazing. And I don't speak Serbian, but I can say chopska, because that's my favorite salad, and it's from here. I mean, so it says more about my ability to learn the language, but also what's important, food. I mean, it's senses. It's about sensing people. It's not about going up and see the fortress. I don't care. I care about you guys. I care about the human contact. I want to, and this is what interests me. That's why I'm here. That's what I love. I would love to see the youngsters get old and older, not old, but older, and to share, to see your parents, even with your kids. We have this tradition that every year we take a picture. How many years do we have now?
8.
8 years. Every year we take. I have them on my lap, and now I can't any longer. Now, maybe. But it's like, maybe it's now. It would be like with Isaac. It's so strange. Oh, whenever I try to climb down in his bed and lie as I did, he's like, it's a little bit too strange. I can't do it any longer. So of course I don't do that. Just calm down. Just a picture. But yeah, this is and also the fact that many of you have been to Copenhagen, have been in the house, been staying there and sleeping and enjoying. They are still there's a bakery around the corner. I don't know for those of you who haven't been to Copenhagen, but bakeries, I'm sorry, you're behind on bakeries.
2 centuries behind.
But I don't know if it's centuries, but this is one thing, and that's why all of us has difficulties maintaining our weight. Because during winter you just want to live there and eat cakes and bread. And when I go there, it's right around the corner from the academy. I live also around the corner. Every time I go there, there is one of those that is serving in the bakery, and they are like, she's called Jytte, and she says to me, that foreigner that comes once in a while and stays here for hours, when is he coming back? And then I'm like, a foreigner comes here and stays? Yeah, he's very handsome and very nice. He has a very nice smile, and he eats not only one, but he eats 3 cakes and 2 coffees, and we've never seen anything like it. And he's like, but he's very charming. And I'm like, and I say, is it Salguero? Yeah, that guy. So I mean, you are putting your marks in history of Denmark. Yeah, and that's, I mean, how wonderful is that? Yeah, and I have my spots in this city I go to every time I'm here. I need to go to Korsu and have a coffee there and a breakfast, because I just love sitting there, mostly in the summertime, because here it's like, it's cold now. Yeah. So that's wonderful. And how we are able to have a connection with our house and our group in Brazil. We have a place to go to, because Mr. Tony and Mr. Ramos is maintaining. One of the big issues we have, for instance, one of my best friends of Capoeira, Mr. Banana, huge group in France, one of the biggest in Europe. When he has an event, there is 500 participants in all ages. It's like crazy big. And his master, Mr. Elias, he resides in Teresópolis. It's a couple of hours drive from Rio. It's the same state. Nobody's training there, because all of his high students, they went to France, and he didn't manage to make another generation. If you go to other groups, Mr. Pumau, for instance, he doesn't have an academy in Rio. He doesn't have a place for his students. Just as an example, Mr. Pelé doesn't have a place to go to. We have a house, we have Ilé in Rio de Janeiro. That's our house. Isaac just went there and trained. He just went there for an event. He saw his brother, Capoeira brother, Mr. Tony's son, get his brown belt. He's in family there. My daughter is there now. She walks on the street, she goes to the supermarket, meet Mr. Tony with his groceries. If she's in need of something, she calls for Gabriel, the son, or Juan, the other son. So we have a place which is not made from nothing. It's not comes out of the blue. It takes years of commitment, of love for the art, of respect, of being humble and inviting them here, and understanding that yes, we do capoeira, we are capoeira, but the roots are there, and without them, we are not planted anywhere. So that's very important. So all of this is connected. We're not separate. It's all unified and connected. Okay? Thank you. Well, I can go on, but I'm more thinking about you guys. We haven't even been peeing or drinking or done anything. You have any more questions? Maybe a final one to finish up? How has it been, this meeting here, this moment together?
It's been great. Nobody even took a piss.
Yeah.
Just listening.
Was it interesting? Yeah. Did I manage to keep you? You're not asleep, but yeah.
Yes.
It's perfect. Meaningful.
It's great how many emotional moments there is in that many years to create such a great story and to have so many participants from different countries, and to I could listen for much more, because I believe it gets like an ups and downs, but it's colorful. It's colorful to have that in your life.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it's never been boring, that's for sure. Yeah.
And Sophia never expressed any desire to do capoeira, or?
She did capoeira.
She did?
She has her mother's temper. So Sophia is she looks like me. in her face. Her body is completely like, it's a mixture of us. Like her mom, she moves as her mom beautifully. She's an amazing mover. And her aesthetics, the way of capoeira was like until, I think she trained until 13 or 12 or something. And then again, she was like, we almost killed each other in the class because she wanted to be in the front line, but she wanted to discuss with me whether I was right in what I was saying. It's not a good mixture. And that was one part of it. The other part was that Sophia is not when it comes to martial arts, there is no dialogue. She's not into dialogue. She's like, you start, okay, either you go or you die. That's a way. She doesn't have this in the martial arts. She's not able to kind of the dialogue in the conversation. She don't want to do that. So she loves the aesthetic part, the dancing part, and everything. So therefore, she chose to do the dancing, and so she's an amazing dancer. She's now in the top. She's the first Danish person being. It's never happened before. At the show, the cream of the samba school, one of the biggest samba schools in the world, Salgivo.
Yeah.
And so she's doing her stuff right now in Rio, as we're speaking. And in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I'm going there with a group of students. I'm doing one more tour. This time it's a small group, there are only 6 that I'm organizing together with Sophia. It's a samba capoeira trip, so we're going to experience the preparations for Carnival. We're going to take classes, dance classes, going to the samba school, we're going to do capoeira, we're going to do trekking in Rio and boat trips and whatnot. And then the group goes home and I stay for 1 more week. And then the 2nd of March, she's going to parade with her samba school again. She's been doing it 3 times before. And I'm there to see her doing that. Mm-hmm. I've seen the samba schools before, parade, and it's like, if you want to see one of the wonders, cultural wonders of the world, this should be on the bucket list. To see the samba schools parade, take a night from 10.
February.
This year it's in March, the first weekend of March. And it's like from 10 in the evening, and you see 6 samba schools, each of like 4,000 members. And they parade, and it's like each samba school is a big theater piece. And
did you say 4,000 members?
In each samba school. They have like 300 people, between 300 and 400 people in the orchestra. Mm-hmm. And then there is
300 people?
Yeah, playing drums. Yeah. And they have 5, in each samba school. The height of 2-storage building that they push. You're not allowed to have an engine on it. So it's like and the colors and it's like amazing. I'm just like, so I gotta see that again. And when Sophia there, who knows how long she's going to, whatever happens, I don't know. I just wanted to experience that with her, together with her. So yeah. So that's amazing. So capoeira is not for her, and still she's like, she's her father's daughter. She's like, so her identity is so much capoeira as well. and well, she doesn't play the game, but she fights capoeira if she needs to. And you need to have that attitude. You can imagine in the samba school where everybody's female dream is to be a bassista. There are 25 of them out of 4,000 members. The most beautiful, the most talented girls. And then 25, they are also bassistas, are the most talented and beautiful men. In that locker room, where they change their costumes, you're the... bassista is out of those 4,000, they are the most beautiful and most talented dancers of the samba school. They represent, that's the essence of the samba school's beauty. That's them. So the dream...
Those who go in the front.
No, they don't go in the front. No? They go close to their orchestra.
But I mean, each group has one in front of their...
Yeah, that's
not like everyone together in front, but each group has their own...
In front of the orchestra is the queen of the orchestra.
Oh, okay, so I mixed them up.
Yeah, and then, so of course, that's the top, but that's always a famous actor or something. It's out of reach. But bassista, that's what everybody dream about. If you want to be a samba dancer, if you can become that. So in that locker room before they parade, but also it's not about the parade always. See, they have shows 3 times a week in the samba school. 2,000 people coming in that place. It's a huge venue of the samba school has by itself. And every Saturday night there are around 2,000 people coming to dance and see the performances. And she's on stage there. But the locker room is the size like this. And you have 50 people in there, no air condition, and the ceiling this high.
Why?
And because
Brazil.
They organize. They have the best medics in the world. They can do that carnival thing. But having a locker room is like, and toilets. I don't even want to go into it. She's the only white. You can't see that she's mixed because her mom is black. They can see that because she has my colors. So she's white, she's privileged, she could do whatever, and now she's in our locker room stealing one of our friends' place as a dancer. If you don't have, like, not big balls because she's not having that, but you don't have the guts, you won't survive. They will kill you in a split second just by the talk behind you. So that's why. So she's doing capoeira every day. It's like, small things, but that's another story. But yeah.
So you talk a lot about respect and the capoeira community. So, to sum it up, what has capoeira taught you over the years?
It has taught me how beautiful life is, how unpredictable. That's the word. How unpredictable life is. You never know. You cannot know. That's why we shouldn't worry all the time either. And the beauty of learning other cultures, meeting other cultures, and how fun life can be. You don't need to you don't need to work with something you don't like. It's a choice. You can choose it, and you only have one life. So it's also taught me to reach out, to embrace the possibilities, And it has also taught me that listen to my gut feeling, my intuition, and go with that. That every time I go too much in my head, I go off track. If I listen to my intuition and go with that, I'm on the right path. Okay, guys. Hopefully, we will have other opportunities, and before your backs dies, let's wrap it up for tonight. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your curiosity and for your respect. It means a lot. So, and we need it in this wonderful life.